Have you ever caught yourself and then asked yourself, why am I being so negative? Well, my name is Marcus. This is Discover Ignite, where we discover possibilities and ignite change. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to get more content like this. Now, so negative thoughts, right? Where are we headed with negative thoughts? There are a lot of times in our life, like myself, I have just recently gone through this phase where I had a lot of negativity in my life. And you find that when you have a lot of negativity, right, when you get essentially an abundance of negative thoughts, right, depending where it's coming from, it can come from a multitude of different things, right? It can come from news, it can come from the relationships that you're in, it can come from your work environment, it can come from essentially anywhere you're at, right? Anything that you interact with on a daily basis. And a lot of times you'll find that stuff kind of gets soaked in, right? It gets absorbed by your subconscious, and you find that you hone in on the negativity as opposed to any positive things that are going on in your life. And this is one of the hardest things is to understand this, right? And actually come to terms with this, because a lot of times we don't want to believe that we're negative people, because it's not, right? It's essentially our environment's creating this negative cloud essentially over our head. And we find that that's all we do, right? We get in this phase, right? I call it a phase, but you essentially always put the negative filter on everything in life. And this is because that's the way you're seeing it right now, right? Because of all the things that are coming in, all the consuming on a consistent basis. And you'll find that whatever you do consume on a consistent basis, you essentially become, right? And a lot of times this is also why we essentially feel like we wake up and we ask ourselves this question: why am I being so negative? And it's essentially you are a product of those thoughts and ideas that you're constantly, introducing into your life. Now, this can be something that's extremely hard to try to hone down or try to come to terms with and understand that this isn't actually you, right? Because a lot of times, I know even for myself, like, this isn't who I am, right? You have this idea of who you are, and you're not this negative person that you see in the mirror, right? And this is what can be hard, and this is what's extremely important, is to actually go through your life, right? And possibly even audit those things around you, right? Like, what are you dealing with on a consistent basis, right? You might be someone that watches the news. Now, the news is filled with a lot of negativity, right? And depending, your political affiliation, none of that really matters. But the thing is that there's a lot of negativity in there, right? And no matter what side you're on, there's just negativity. And it was things like that, right? I was the kind of person that would watch news all the time, and I would always, be in situations where I was just seeing a lot of negativity in life, right? Like there was things, I wouldn't even think about anything kind of positive coming out of it. It was always the negative, right? Well, this and this are where it's going to happen, not any of the positive side to it, right? And it can be extremely hard. And coming to terms with that is really where I was able to change my mindset and change my life to where I didn't think that way anymore, right? And now this is going back into your audit, right? You want to audit what's coming in, whether that's the news, whether that's relationships, whether that is any form of interaction that you're dealing with on a daily basis. And sometimes it can be a little bit harder if you are, dealing with some kind of negativity at work. It might get to the point to where that negativity is so draining outside of work that maybe you need to consider actually, leaving that job or finding another job that will make you happier, because it's a negative environment and it's only going to spill into your private life, right? And so this is what's really important, is to do that audit on your life and figure out where the negativity is coming from, right? And this is going to take a lot of time for you to actually see that maybe it's a relationship that you're in, that there's actually a lot of negativity there, right? And you don't see that a lot of times, or you start doubting that, right? Like they're not negative, they can't be negative, I've been with them for however long, right? And you don't see that. But when you step back, right, you really have to do a top-down approach and look at everything and play everything on an equal field, right? And this is exactly what you have to do to be able to remove those negative thoughts, because ultimately that's what it's coming down to, is that the thought, the idea that you're consuming a bunch of negative thoughts. And if that's the way it is, that's what you're going to project onto life, right? Is everything that you're consuming is again going to just be projected right back out into life that you're living. And this is what you're going to see. This is how you're going to interact with things, because you have that negative thought, that idea, those ideas in your head. So the best way to do this is to do that audit, remove those things, right? And then before you even start incorporating anything, make sure you're at this state in which you are not really thinking things is in positive or negative terms, right? It's ultimately where you want to get. And then when you want to start introducing things in life that you want, you need to start reinforcing positive things and slowly start implementing those back into your life. And you realize that a lot of that thought process, those thought ideas that you had before, you don't think that way anymore, right? Because you don't have that constant flux of negative ideas and thoughts in your head, and you essentially become those negative thoughts and ideas. But if you can get positive thoughts, positive ideas, positive images of, perhaps even the person that you want to be, right? If you start implementing stuff like that, if you feel like you're very negative about yourself and there's a lot of negative things about you that you keep, thinking to yourself, right? That negative self-talk, you want to try to remove all that, remove all the things. Perhaps, you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook and you see all these people that are in shape or all these people that are successful. And so that just puts a big strain on you, right? And so you're filtering, your life through this filter. And so you want to remove all that and don't introduce it until, you essentially have the right filter on, right? The positive filter. And a lot of times, people don't think about these things, and you have to essentially wipe the clean slate, right? And make sure that there's nothing on there. Make sure all your feeds, whatever it is, doesn't try to present some kind of negativity into your life, right? Because when you do that, those thoughts and ideas will consume you, and then you'll be negative, and then you'll wonder who you are. Where if you are implementing a lot more positivity, once you've cleaned that slate and started, even if you have to stay away from some things, right? If there's things like Facebook or Instagram that you feel like you're getting drawn into and cause you to think negative about something, then you need to remove it and you need to replace that with something positive or with nothing at all, right? Because if you can't find any kind of positivity in it, just completely remove it. Because what's the point, right? If it's bringing some kind of negativity in your life, then you don't need it. And this is why I talk about the news and stuff so much, because there is a lot of negativity out there where if you just remove that, you would notice a big difference in your mood, a big difference in your filter, right? Your filter on life and how you see that life, right? And see if you're more of a positive kind of person now, or you're that negative person that you don't want to really be, right? Nobody likes that negative energy. Nobody wants to be around that negative energy. You like being positive. This is where we find, our happiness, right? This is where we find life is being good, right? Because when we have that positive outlook on life as opposed to the negative outlook on life. And this is again where it's really important to do that audit and to remove all those things, right? And then before you even introduce anything, do it slowly. Introduce, one or two things that are positive, let that sink in and see how you're doing, right? Because some things you may actually think are positive, they may not actually be as positive as you would want, right? Because it really depends on your, perspective. This is why it's good to have that neutral filter initially, right? When you remove all that stuff, is to have that neutral filter and really see where your perspective is, right? Because once you eliminate the negativity, you'll start coming back to a balance to where it's like you're thinking for yourself, right? Like, is this good or bad? And then at that point, you can start introducing a lot of positivity into your life and seeing that these thoughts and ideas, right? This is what you essentially become. This is essentially what your life can be by introducing these positive things into your life. And if you have too many negative things, well then again, you're gonna have that negative outlook on life, and it's gonna be extremely hard to get past. So start an audit, remove those things, be neutral, slowly implement those positive ideas, and you'll realize that your life can dramatically change. Mine mind has dramatically changed by actually doing this and, you know, weeding out all the bad negative things that was constantly enforcing that negative thought process in my head to a more positive thought process by introducing more positive things. So if this video actually helped you guys, remember to hit that like button on the way out. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.